Snow White actress Rachel Zegler implies she's not getting any work in Hollywood following the release of that film. Wrote this up over at phantompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. Zegler's Hollywood career began after she was chosen by Steven Spielberg to star as Maria in his West Side Story film. She then landed a role as Anthea in Shazam! Fury of the Gods before starring as Lucy Greybeard in The Hunger Games: The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Next, she played Laura in Y2K and voiced Princess Elion in Netflix's Spellbound before starring in Disney's Snow White, which was released this year. All of this happened within the last 5 or so years. I think West Side Story came out in 2021. So she was getting quite a bit of work over the last couple of years in a number of big tentpole projects. Obviously, Shazam! Fury of the Gods over with the DCEU, The Hunger Games, obviously a big franchise, and then clearly landing that Snow White role, and then obviously a Netflix animated movie. Obviously, all kind of big roles. Netflix's Spellbound, I think, was trying to compete with a lot of these Disney princess movies, these Disney Pixar animated movies, etc. So she was getting top billing on a lot of this stuff, getting like the juiciest of roles in Hollywood, for lack of a better term. Aside from starring in these films, she did play Juliet in a stage play of Romeo and Juliet on Broadway back in February, and she's currently starring as Ava Perón in a London West End production of Evita. And she recently conducted an interview with the outlet ID discussing taking on the role of Ava Perón, and that is where she implied she made the return because she wasn't getting any work in Hollywood. She said, "I came back to theater on my own volition, which is just crazy." So now that obviously looks like it's the opposite of what the headline says, of what I've said, that she's implying that she's not getting any work. It sounds like she is getting work. She left to go back to theater, and she did it of her own volition. However, this is what she said after that. "I'm the type of person that can only be bored for like 2 weeks. After Romeo and Juliet closed, I was doing the odd press here and there for Snow White and was sitting there for a bit going, what am I supposed to do?" Additionally, she said, "I think the reality of being a woman in this industry, as archaic as it seems, is asking yourself, when will I get the chance again? By the time it comes back again, I may be considered aged out." I think that's a legitimate complaint there. But the fact that Zegler admitted she was sitting around bored and was wondering what she was supposed to do heavily implies she wasn't getting phone calls to star in any upcoming productions from Hollywood, something that was clearly not happening after she landed the role for Maria in West Side Story. Obviously, talked about how she was constantly getting those roles and was starring in those big tentpole films. It's unclear why Hollywood might not be calling Zegler anymore. There's likely a number of factors. She is not a box office draw. West Side Story, Shazam! Fury of the Gods, and Snow White all bombed miserably at the box office. The Hunger Games film barely broke even, only grossing $347 million globally on an estimated $100 million budget. Not only is Zegler box office poison, but she's a divisive personality. She's engaged in cancel campaigns against fellow actors such as Gina Carano and Jeremy Renner. She called Renner a racist, sexist, transphobic garbage monster and claimed he disrespected the deaf community back in 2019 as he was going through a very public and nasty divorce. I actually think he was going through the divorce, and he was also fighting for custody over his daughter, I think. And there were some court documents that were made public, etc., that were coming from his ex-wife that were tarnishing him, and Zegler piled on. She also piled on Gina Carano back in 2020, writing on X, "Do not make fun of pronouns. They're not a joke. Pronouns are validating. Pronouns are cool. Put your pronouns in your bio. I wear my pronouns on a button sometimes. It's a good thing. Bye." And then she concluded saying, "It's a fun time to remind you all to love Pedro Pascal." This was when there was a giant cancel mob going after Gina Carano, and Rachel Zegler was clearly participating in it, especially referencing Pedro Pascal there. And obviously just pushing evil, right? She's pushing gender ideology there by pushing the use of pronouns. In November, she also wished that President Trump supporters never know peace while cursing out Trump himself. She posted this stuff on her Instagram story. She eventually apologized, I think, or issued some kind of apology for it. I think it was like a fake apology. She was like, "I'm sorry that I offended you," or something like that, rather than actually being sorry and showing any kind of contrition for what she said. She's also shared support for Palestine while promoting Snow White. On X back in August, she said, "I love you all so much. Thank you for the love and for 120 million views on our trailer in just 24 hours. What a whirlwind. I am in the thick of rehearsals for Romeo and Juliet, so I'm going to get out of here. Bye for now." And then she added in this subsequent post, "And always remember, free Palestine." That post obviously was a bone of contention. There were multiple reports that the producers for Snow White had to go and meet her in person to talk to her about that. So that could be one of the main reasons why she's not getting work in Hollywood anymore. Interestingly enough, she did address her position on Palestine in the interview with ID as well. She says, "My compassion has no boundaries is really what it is, and my support for one cause does not denounce any others. That's always been at the core of who I am as a person. It's the way I was raised. There are obviously things that are at stake by being outspoken, but nothing is worth innocent lives. My heart doesn't have a fence around it, and if that is considered my downfall, there are worse things." So again, more, I think, evidence here in this interview with this ID outlet that she's not getting work in Hollywood and she's basically been blackballed. And to me, it looks like she's being blackballed. Probably the biggest factor that she's being blackballed for is her support for Palestine right here. I don't think it has really a lot to do with her comments about Trump supporters. Pedro Pascal obviously bashes Trump supporters on the regular, constantly getting work. He's basically the hottest actor in Hollywood right now, starring in Fantastic Four: First Steps, starring in HBO's The Last of Us, and he's going to be in the upcoming Mandalorian film as well. So he's obviously in some of the biggest franchises, working for some of the biggest companies. So I don't think that's why he's getting removed. And then obviously the gender ideology stuff. Who in Hollywood isn't promoting this evil stuff? It's sick. And they're constantly getting work for pushing that stuff. And then bashing your own fellow celebrities, fellow actors. I kind of see that all the time. I don't think that would be a reason for them to kind of stop giving you calls. But I think Zegler here is saying it's because she supports Palestine. And then we have a last piece of evidence here from this interview. She revealed she had phone calls with her West Side Story co-star Mike Feist, I don't know how to say his name, where she suggested her career was over, telling the outlet, "I talked to him on the phone," and we'd be like, "Well, that's it." So definitely looks like she is being blackballed by Hollywood based on what her own comments are here in this interview with ID. Multiple comments about it throughout the interview, even talking about how her support for Palestine could be considered her downfall. So that's what it is. She's not getting any work in Hollywood. That's probably for the best. I think the reasoning for it is wrong. I don't think that supporting Palestine should make you lose your job in Hollywood. The Pope, Pope Francis, Pope Leo have condemned the violence that's taking place there in Gaza, in Palestine, in Israel, etc. It's not a controversial position to take, but I think she should have been fired for her promotion of gender ideology, which is objectively evil, her nasty comments about Trump supporters, and then her attacks on her fellow actors. Just absolutely sick. Those are obviously more appropriate, in my mind, for why she should be fired, but it looks like she is being blackballed because of her position on Palestine. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.
Why would you be afraid of the people? Why are you not afraid of God instead of man?